Okay. And usually you have a Jamboard and all this fluffy stuff, but we're just going to get right to it here. So here we
We
go.
could do a word for the day. I do that sometimes. Like where are you right now? Like
Okay,
what's your
Yvonne,
mood?
what's your word for the day? Where are you right now
Or
in
for
your
the
head?
moment, really, right? Like the day was a lot probably.
What's your word for the day, Yvonne, if you had to have one?
Um, I'm glad the work day is over.
Good, good. Yeah, my
I
day.
guess that's more of a phrase than a word, but
Yeah.
um,
That's okay. It's the idea of it, the gist, right?
Yep.
I'm
So
super peaceful because I just got in from a walk before I got on because I was in golf all day. Gosh, bless me. All right.
So a couple things we're going to look at. When more people get here, I might have us quickly introduce each other. I know some of us talked about some classroom management strategies last month. You weren't with us. So we were going to recap how that went if they're able to hop on. I know a couple of my interns in particular, we want to talk about videotaping tips and tricks because we really need to get going on that. A quick lesson plan review for some questions I've gotten, and then engagement is our TPE focus for the month, and then we'll look at when we're meeting again. So I'm going to skip this. Actually, my other person really needs that, so I'll wait till she's on. So some of my some questions that have come up about lesson planning for me are in particular these questions right here. Focus number 1, ELA student, special needs student, and life experience. So sometimes I've had people, Debbie, put like, I don't have any English learner students. And whether or not they do or not, I believe they have to fill that in.
And it's not just because we want to make you, it's or SCOE wants to make you, it's because the state of California issues the credential based on the fact that you know how to write a lesson plan that in particular specifically addresses these 3 categories. And it's a state requirement, and it's why it's in the lesson plan. And it will also be in your cycle 1 TPA. You have to write, if you don't have them, as if, because again, they want all credentialed teachers in California to have the capability to write as if, because the theory is that the likelihood of all candidates having these types of students are high, and that regardless, if you never ever have a EL student in your classroom, that you need to know how to write as if you do. So that's
What's
why.
something you might put there for your focus for your EL student, Deb? What's something you might write on the lesson plan for that?
Well, let's ask Ovan. Tell me what, if you wouldn't mind reminding me what grades you share that you teach. You're special ed,
I'm high
but
school,
what, high
special ed
school?
high school, 9th
Okay,
through 12th, and
okay,
I also don't have any ELD students in my class.
right.
I know I had to fill that out on the couple of lesson plans that I've done already. So what
Good.
I tried to do was figure out what's the equivalent to the standard that I'm currently using. What would be the equivalent to
Perfect.
that?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, well, you're not looking for the standard, you're looking for strategies, right? So the standard's going to go up in the ELD standard box. Then the ELD goal underneath that is a specific goal that connects to the standard that you're trying to teach that matches. So like, for instance, there's a general standard like that they can communicate in groups or whatever, and that can work for English, that can work for math, it can work for whatever. Like communication is one of the standards. So that could be a standard. And then let's say you're teaching, I'm not saying you are, but let's say you're teaching a geometry lesson, right? And so, and they're learning about polynomials. I don't even think that's geometry, but like I'm not math.
It is.
Rectangles. I watched a rectangle lesson yesterday. That my students will be able to collaborate with their group and work to identify different types of rectangles. And then, a strategy might be that you're going to pre-teach the vocabulary to your EL students, because maybe focus student, the EL student that you have is an emerging language student. And so you're going to pre-teach like what you know, the matching sides. I can't think of the words, but like you're going to pre-teach some of the academic vocabulary. If it's a literacy lesson, you might pre-teach like, you know, if you're learning to write a thesis, you might pre-teach what a thesis might be, so that they're familiar when they're then going to work on it in a collaborative setting. So that could be an example. You also want to vary the, like when you get to special needs student, even if you're pre-teaching for a special needs student, you also want to do something specifically. So part of the idea here is that you're using the background knowledge of your students and their needs and assets, right? Like, let's say your English language learner is a super kinesthetic learner. You know, you might give manipulatives. I know, again, you're high school. I'm just like going out from what I saw yesterday.
Would use manipulatives. I've seen, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of his lessons.
And then special needs student, like let's say your special needs student is has difficulty focusing, right? You know, it needs to relate to their assets and needs, right? Like maybe they're really good with technology and that helps them to stay focused. And so maybe you're going to have them access a piece of the lesson using technology with a partner, and that would be a strategy for that student. Then your life experience student is, and life experience is not necessarily negative. I know most people perceive it that way. Anybody, I mean, really every single student is a life experience student. We're all experiencing life, right? So if somebody's parent remarried, if somebody's parents divorced, if there's a death in the family, if they're a foster or homeless student, like it can be anything. And then it's tying that knowledge of their issue or assets or needs, right? Like I had a high school math teacher last year. His student in this category was homeless and didn't have any space to do homework at night. So he strategized with the life experience student, like putting him with a group because he was a team player. He was way into sports. That's what he did after school to avoid going home, actually. And so that he could work in a group because he's a team player, and then also so that collectively they could get the work done before he had to leave for the day. So just things like that.
So I have a question. So all of Yvonne's students are special needs students, really. Yep. So what would he put here when they're all special needs students in different ways? Do you just kind of pick
one?
Pick one,
or you pick one.
Okay.
Yep. And they don't know, they will never see. So, I mean, this is practice for the lesson plan, but this is also a key component of Cycle 1 TPA. When we start talking about it next semester, you have to do this for each of these types in the TPA. And so that's part of the reason we're practicing it. The other reason being, like I said, certification for the credential, you have to be able to do it. And so theoretically, you're going to have a student in each category, no matter what type of classroom. And they never see the student. Like you video your lesson and you have to do clips, but you never ever identify students by name or by like classification. So it can be a composite in your mind, or like you said, you don't have an EL student, you're going to imagine that you do, right? So it's just best practices here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my other teacher just texted me that she's actually ill and not gonna make it.
Oh, it's going around.
I definitely want to tailor this because Yvonne, I saw already met with him. You have so much going on. And so I don't, none of us are for taking anyone's time unnecessarily. So I do just want to focus, like, do you have any challenges with the lesson plan? Like I know, well, if it's okay, Yvonne, I mean, even what you went through last week, I think was a perfect challenge that I didn't know what to tell you. Do you mind if I share?
I don't mind.
Okay. So this was really interesting. Yvonne teaches a study skills class. And so literally the kids are coming up to his desk one-on-one. He's going through his computer, checking like their grades with them. And so he didn't know how to do, or I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong words, but it didn't lend itself to a lesson, your normal average lesson plan. But because that's one of the main things he does, and we wanted to use it as an observation, he had to give me one. So have you ever seen that before, Debbie? And what have people done?
Yeah. Yeah, I have lots of, not lots, but a number of interns who teach study skills, right? Avid or special ed study skills. They do usually actually teach study skills as part of that. So so like there's a
True.
highlight of oh, you know, like organization or how to do account, you know, like it's mid-year. So you're not doing a calendar unless you're reteaching it because they're struggling with it. I even have some like that in my high school. And they're regular students. So or a reflection, like it's a great opportunity to do a student self-assessment. Like, okay, these are the skills that we're working on for you to manage your time and and let's do a reflective piece. Like I mean, I could see having a, you know, Google form or an interactive like discussion about, you know, whether you want to do it privately, one-on-one or whatever, they do it first. And then you discuss as a group. I mean, I always think group, we can learn from each other. But I don't know what the trust level is there. So honestly, doing a trust building activity and then doing a reflective activity and then talking about what's a strength in my study skills areas over the ones we've talked about and what's one that's still challenging me. I have a really good video. It's like a 2-minute clip on procrastination because that's a big topic this time of
Yeah.
year. And we talk about like, you know, that the video gives some specific strategies. And I usually at this time of the year have them choose one area that they procrastinate on, inside or outside the classroom, and what they want to do for 30 days to establish a new habit around that. Just things like that. I mean, you know,
Do
it doesn't have to be a huge
you
lesson.
Or like
ever
the Seven
do,
Habits book. I don't know what
Yep.
level, but
do you ever do any teaching other than, I mean, I know you're teaching one-on-one because I saw it, but do you do any lessons when you have that study skill class?
About 95% of the study skill class is exactly what you saw, only 5% where we do group lecture.
Oh, okay. So yeah, maybe if you were ever filming that for the TPA, yeah, you would want to be sure it was the lecture part then. Deb, you looked, no, he could do.
Well, no. I don't know because I don't know what you saw.
Oh.
All I'm saying is, so for the TPA, you need 3 clips, right? Like you film your whole lesson. You need, and again, this isn't until next semester, but you want to be thinking because you do have to show student engagement. You have to show a learning goal. You have to show all these things. You have to have 3 focus students. So a lecture wouldn't do it, right? Like there needs to be, unless
Oh,
you,
well, by lecture, yeah, Ovan and I tend to use that word, right? By
okay,
lecture, we meant a presentation and a lesson, you
got
know,
it.
the
Got it.
whole
Got it.
class.
Got it.
Yeah, that's what I think it actually
A
refers.
minimum of 3 students has to be in
Mhm.
every video clip. Yeah.
Okay. So that goes on to the recording, and I was hoping for some year twos here who've already been through this. And so let me kind of go over a little bit about this. This isn't specifically for the TPA right here, but I just took this from like the coaching and what we're supposed to be getting with our interns. And one of the recommendations said that there should be a balance of in-person observations and recorded observations, all with a lesson plan. And I need to have, or we all need to have a minimum of 3 recorded and 3 in person. And my interns in particular, we haven't, I recorded a Vaughn one time, but we really need to move on and have him recording himself. I mean, do you see any value in me recording him, Debbie? Okay, yeah,
Yes. Obviously, any recording, whoever does it, is super valuable for everybody, right? Because you can look at it collectively, and we see things when we see ourselves in a recording that we don't see when we're in the middle, right?
Mhm.
So that part is always helpful. Um,
But
and
how does it usually work for the TPA? And
Mhm. And know that we do like, not me, but we have a duo, 2 guys who teach all about like the recording and annotations and clipping the videos for the TPA. Next semester, there's a course on that everybody's required to take. It's one of the Saturday classes. But I always have, so we don't really want to wait until then, right? Because like want
I
kind
want
of
to
recording.
practice now. Yeah, I want to
Well,
practice.
this for the students as much as anybody, because the more used to like some teachers just leave their however you want to record, many it's their phones. They just leave them up all the time on a little stand, and students just get used to it because and sometimes they press record and sometimes they forget. It doesn't matter, but you know, you want as much as possible for them to think that's a really normal thing by the time you're filming. And then the second thing is you want to know that you never have to have student face it. Like all they need to see is that it's live bodies. It can be completely from behind. They never need to see student faces. It can be silhouettes. It can be, you know, raised hands. It can be whatever.
What if a student turns around?
No, it's fine.
That's
I'm not
okay.
saying, I'm just saying you don't have to make sure to get their faces. What you do have to do is you also have to appear in the video.
But I thought you didn't want their faces for
No,
for
no, you
release.
just don't have to. You need to get a release. So,
Yeah, I
You-
think so. So if a child does not sign a release, because Ovan does have a few, their backs can't even be in it or anything, right?
right.
Okay.
So you can,
Okay.
yeah. So you just, that's why it's better for him to place the camera because he knows the students
Yeah.
and knows who ought to be like, you know, in the line of fire, so to speak. And so, and the releases, Christy, so like a lot of times it's by district, and we all know this, right? Like if the district has on file an opt-out, but for special ed, it's usually they have to sign to allow it. And so it just depends though on the district and the site, and finding out what that is. Generally speaking, there is a policy in place, and then just making sure that you need 3 students in the video clips. And so that's usually manageable. And if it's not, you have to borrow some. That's just the truth. You have to borrow some from somebody and make it
From
happen.
students.
Which obviously isn't good because you want to be teaching your own students. So, but like some people never teach math, and in special ed, you teach a literacy and a math. It's required for the TPA. So next year, everybody who's special ed will be teaching math. And if you don't teach math, you have to, ideally you take the students that you already work with and you do a simple math lesson with them, right? Like an out of the box math lesson, because it has to happen. Or you work with whoever teaches them math and you teach a series of lessons, whatever it is, not to worry about now. For this year, it's literacy. And so that's what you'll be teaching for TPA.
Ovan
and
doesn't teach literacy, he teaches math.
yeah, so he'll teach literacy though. He'll need to teach one literacy lesson for the TPA.
Okay. Did you
And
know
that could be in the study
Ovan?
skills class. Like that would be easy to take a passage and do a reading comprehension or a short like thesis, like something, right? In study skills. Probably didn't know that because we don't talk about the TPA till January.
I've been talking about it with mine for a while just because I don't know. I just want them to be prepared. And like you said, I want the students to be used to being recorded. I want the audio. I want, you know, us all to know everything is working. And so.
Yeah, I usually require my second observation to be a recording. And I always say it's practice. Like if audio is terrible, if we can't see anything, it's just such good information because the aesthetics of, you know, and acoustics of your classroom, we don't really know yet if you're new. And then we talk through it about what to adjust, if the behavior is a problem, you know, how to talk with the students about like, this is going to be a normal thing. We're going to normalize it. Like we're going to be recording so I can grow and learn because that's really what that is. It's not about them. But
Question is this,
yeah,
we're talking so much about this TPA and its recording and stuff. Is this a graded thing? Is this a pass, fail?
it's graded. It's
It's
rubric.
what you have to have to get your credential, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you do 2 of them. You do cycle 1 and cycle 2. They're both graded. There's a rubric and a passing score for each one. Yeah. It's not pass fail. I mean,
Yeah, I can actually show you, but I don't want to in the recording. But so yeah, it's a rubric, and you'll probably, I mean, mine had like 7 different rubrics, and and then they'll go through and mark. So like the total passing had to be 14. You had to get like at least a 14, like a 2 on each rubric. And so yeah, it's a fairly low score, but there still the average was only like 18 was like the average score on ours. And so that was a good question. So do you have any questions? Because you're going to record for your first time in December then. So Vaughn, do you have any questions? I mean, like I was wondering how is the best way? Sorry, I now have a question. How will he get that to me? How do you usually, not using Go React, if we choose not to use that?
Yeah,
What are the
I
other
don't have
ways?
anybody who uses it.
Yeah. So how
Not
will
that
my interns get me their video? Because it's pretty long. I don't think they can just text it to me. So
No, they can't. So I have, and Ovan, you may have a better idea, but what my interns do is they create a private YouTube channel, which is free. And they upload it to that, and every time they upload a video, they've already shared it with me. And if they haven't, I remind them like, hey, time to share your video. So each of mine has a YouTube channel, and they upload their videos to that and share them that way with me.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, that's great.
One of mine did it, and she was able to, she attached it to an email.
And the whole thing
Wow.
was downloadable.
It didn't work the first time, but then she did something, and then I got it.
Zip file probably.
Yeah.
Compressed it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was even wondering like the cloud or something. So,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, there's no
you'll-
one way, but yeah.
Okay.
So each submission, video submission needs to be approximately how many minutes long?
Good question.
For your lesson
Or to
plan for
me,
SCOE,
yeah. No, to me. Is that what you mean,
There's-
Ovan?
Yes. Yes.
there's I mean, however long your lesson is,
Oh, okay.
there's no requirement. It needs
Okay.
to
Like
be
if
able to
you
hit
were
all the things
there.
in the lesson plan pretty much, like, right? But if
20
you
to
don't do
40
that,
minutes, probably.
if you have your students for a half an hour, it's however long you have that group.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't address everything in the like lesson plan if you're seeing students multiple times a week in small groups, but it's like you submit the lesson plan and then however long the group meeting is. Nobody's looking at it but Mrs. Edwards. So
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and he calls me Vicky, so thank you. That was
okay,
sweet.
gotcha.
And then do most people use a tripod or what? I just use Zoom recording when I did it. So how will they do that?
So most people record right off their phones.
And
I
what
have a
do-
little
I
stand,
mean,
like I'll show you.
oh, little stand. Okay.
And this is what I usually see. Sorry. I mean, it doesn't have to be this. You could prop it up, but so that it doesn't fall. So I have this stand. It's like $20 at like Amazon. Anyhow, and it just stands like that, you know.
Perfect.
But that's what I generally see. Mine, I have one person who records off his iPad, but everybody else just records off their phone.
Yeah, my teacher did her iPad.
And they don't have someone else record it for them. They do it they self-record. Okay. Great. Well, we're gonna give it a try.
Is there any issue with, I mean, if I set it up, if I just set it up in my classroom or if I have somebody come in and hold it, does that make a structural difference? Does it matter as long as I got the recording of me teaching?
Yeah, no, nobody, you're not graded at all on who's recording, how it's recorded. Just my feeling is, not my feeling. I've never had an intern ask me to record for him or her. Usually they know the slant they want, they know what the lesson's looking like, they know where they want. You know, this year it's not such a big deal. For cycle 2, they have to catch students specifically a few different times doing a few different things so they know to move the phone to the students that they're gonna question. But other than that, yeah, you can have somebody record for you.
Do I get to decide what lesson I'm going to use?
Yeah.
So
There'll be
like the one that's already been
parameters.
like the one that's already been recorded that you was in the classroom and you were recording. Is there any reason why I can't use that?
Yeah, you won't want to use that because there will be parameters that I don't think you've been told yet. And I think you're really going to want to, they're pretty particular, and you're really going to want to pick a lesson that really shows off the things that they're going to want to see. So I think
You're
a lot of-
required, there are annotations, right? You're required to hit certain things in your clips. It's not
yeah,
just
we
that you
don't
choose
know if
some
we
clip.
hit them or not.
But
we
that's for the
probably did.
TPA, right? You're talking, Vicky?
Mhm,
I think,
mhm.
were you saying, Ovan, just like for your
Oh.
December one? For your
Oh.
December recording, you could just do whatever.
Oh, good question. So Yvonne, were you asking if you could just use the one I took for your December observation or use it for the TPA?
Use it for the TPA.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll want to get just a
It's-
perfect one. No
Yeah.
pressure.
Well, I suggest you go through it and see what you hit for fun, because it's best practices.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a fun baseline, like, oh, okay. I actually would have had 3 of the whatever annotations, so now I can see what it looks like, to make sure that, you know, most people, when they're ready to film for the one they're going to submit, like, they have a sticky note or they have something, because they want to make sure that they hit everything and don't have to refilm, right? Like, it's one lesson for cycle 1. And there are specific, and then you have to get those clips from that lesson. So it's intentional, but most of it's best practice. So it could be that you hit them all.
Yeah. And that's actually a good idea. As we get closer and you are seeing what you actually have to hit, if you kept that recording, we should go through it and kind of like use it as a draft, and this would have worked, or maybe we should be sure and do this differently here. And so that's a great idea.
Okay.
Like, one of the things you have to do is show that you've set a positive classroom environment. So hopefully you're doing that already, right? It's probably in
All the
there.
time,
And
yes.
that's a clip that you have to provide. So just like things like that, but because you're not informed yet exactly what you need to make sure to do, you may not have it all in there. Just, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to kind of make sure to insert something that you weren't normally going to put in there to capture everything that you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to encourage all the interns to be practicing, because I know that for the Cal APA, when it got to the video cycle, there was just a lot of stress over the whole videoing and technology. And so the more we can all, all the interns can be used to doing that ahead of time, it just takes the stress and the anxiety out of it.
Yeah,
So-
because there's the actual like lesson and content component, and then there's the technology part of it.
Right.
So that's what I talked to my intern who already recorded one, and she was having trouble with her iPad. And I'm like, well, why don't you go to the computer teacher at your school and talk to them and like, get an expert. So if there's technology issues and you're at like a middle school or high school, I'm sure there's probably a computer teacher or
That's a good idea.
somebody that, or even like a student who's really good, maybe they can come record you. So you don't have to worry about the technology part of it, and you can just focus on the content.
Well, and they actually have to take a course next semester that it's a 1-day tech course
Okay.
from SCOE that goes over all of this
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
How to clip them, how to get, how to label the annotations and all of that. We have 2 guys who teach that course every year.
So really, with you here, what are your needs? I mean, is there anything that you in particular we could help you with while you're here? I mean, we talked about lesson planning, we talked about video recording.
You used the term earlier, APA, and then TPE.
Okay, that's a great question. So I shouldn't have used APA because it has nothing to do with you. APA is administrator proficiency, and so it's very similar, but you can let that one go. So TPE and TPA, I have to tell you, it's funny that you asked, because last night I was texting these ladies on here, and I used the wrong one, and Debbie was like, well, they're not even doing that until
You're like, I
January.
mean TPE.
And I was like, oh, I meant the TPE, not the TPA. So they're very commonly misconstrued. And so let me try and start, and then please jump in. So the TPE are teacher, I don't know the P, but I know it stands for expectations. Is that right? Expectations. So those are kind of like, do we have them on here? Yeah.
I put this one on for TPE1, but I have all 6 of them on a little placemat on my desktop if you want me to share. But this is just an example. There are 6 of them.
So there's 6 of them, and yeah, it's the expectation. So this is number 1, TPE number 1, engaging and supporting all students in learning. And then it would give like the different, it breaks it down a little bit more. And yeah, Debbie, if you can pull something up with all of them, that would be great. Well,
Yep.
And then
it's teacher performance expectation is what it stands for.
Okay, teacher
And
performance.
the other is TPA is teacher performance assessment. So yeah.
That's the cycle 1 and cycle 2. You want me to stop sharing?
So the expectations like the practice, and then the assessment is the test of it.
So the video is the
implementation,
TPA.
but
Yeah, the videos for the TPA, which
is year
In
2.
a total of how many videos do I have to submit?
You record a lesson from start to finish. You can't have any interruptions, but
no, that's impossible.
No, like you don't turn it
hold
off.
on, I'm not finished. Yeah, no, you can't start it and stop it. You have to record the whole lesson.
Okay. Because we constantly
students can interrupt you. That'll happen.
But you for cycle 1 and cycle 2 are different for what you have to submit. But for cycle 1, you submit 3 video clips of up to 5 minutes each for the annotations specifically that they're asking you to clip. Yeah. Okay.
So basically I only at the very most I have to do at least a 5-minute recording of myself hitting that one whatever annotation that I'm being directed
It'll be
to
more
do.
than that, more than 5
No, you
minutes.
have to do a whole recording where all of those minutes are within one recording. Like you're wearing the same clothes, it's the same students, it's the same lesson, it's one lesson with one group, and you hit all those things, a total of up to 15 minutes within that maybe 30-minute lesson.
And I wanted to raise your knowledge and let you know that you will have this coming, but trust me, from someone who just graduated from SCOE last semester with the what was it?
Admin.
I don't want, they will explain it so well, Yvonne, that you will understand everything after you go. So I wanted to like kind of preempt and make sure you knew it was coming, but they really will. I don't want you to get up
step by step.
Yeah, they will. So you'll get more information than you ever wanted to know about what you need to do.
We do a whole overview of it, right? In your Saturday class in January, and then we schedule multiple part days where we walk you through, and then we have office hours for it to support you.
And I feel it's one of my kind of my strengths a little bit. So I would
Nice.
love to work with you on it when the time comes. Yeah.
And of the 8 lessons for the school year, 3 of them are supposed to be recorded. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I didn't know if that is what you're asking also.
That was right up here. We talked about the balance. I don't know if you were in here, but we talked about out of the 8.
Okay.
It has to be, you have to have 3 of each.
I think that was, just before I came.
Debbie, did you have the TPs pulled up?
I am about to. One second.
Perfect. I just want to show them what it is.
All right, 6.
It's in the coach log too, just so you know.
Yeah, there's 6 of them.
The coach log. I mean, so if you go to your dashboard,
I just am recording and sharing my screen. And
yeah, okay. So hang on, I got
okay.
you. I just meant him because it's in his dashboard too.
Okay, gotcha.
And in resources, but no big deal. Hold on, for some reason mine is just really small right now. But I'm just going to show you anyhow, and I'm not going to fiddle with it anymore.
I'll stop sharing when you're ready.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe my screen is. Okay, there we go. If I can get back to it. So these are them very, very small. But so TPE1, right, is engagement. TPE2 down here is monitoring their effective environment. 3 is, I can barely read it, so you can probably barely read it. I don't know why it's so small. There we go. Right. Understanding and organizing subject matter for student learning. And 4 is planning and instruction. 5 is assessment. And 6 is developing as a professional educator, and then all the bullets down below. But these are theoretically, by the time that you complete the SCOE program over the course of 2 years, all of these TPEs you're engaged with and addressing in your planning and implementation. And that's the idea. They turn into CSTPs when you move on to
Become a teacher.
induction.
Yeah.
And it's really all the same, but for now, you know, they're called teacher performance expectations, and they're essentially best practices in each of those 6 categories. And so this year for the TPA, the TPEs that really aren't a huge part, because next year's TPA is assessment driven instruction. And to go way ahead with information you probably don't care about, next year it's assessment driven instruction for cycle 2, and you do a series of lessons, 3 to 5 lessons. And part of the decision for the last one to reteach or extend is based on informal assessment, student self-assessment, teacher assessment, and results, and a decision to either reteach a portion of your class or the whole class, or extend the lesson. So this year it's essentially on things like a positive classroom environment, higher knowledge, engagement, and the continuum of why we're doing this and what we'll be able to do once you've mastered like whatever the concept is for this lesson for moving on. So it's pretty succinct for cycle 1. Have you seen this before, Yvonne? The TPEs?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. They should be in your dashboard under resources, but so I better stop sharing. Don't look at my crazy
I know,
screen.
I always worry.
It's in this student, I believe the student handbook.
Okay.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about having, so basically, we're supposed to do formal meetings with everybody, which are our observations. And then we need to be putting in informal time, also with our interns and you with us. So we were looking at doing this again in December. I'm a little discouraged that people aren't here, but I think, you know, just like with my students, I've been starting something called office hours with them, and it didn't take off like I wanted, but Christy and I have been perseverant about having it, and I'm noticing that more and more people come. So
Nice.
did we all still
They'll
want
come when the TPA kicks in.
Yeah.
Because they'll have lots of questions.
Mine wanted the one, at least. I don't know. I messaged the other, and I
well, and even if like one person comes, it's great.
She had something else she just couldn't get out of.
Yeah. I think it's worth it if one person comes, and even if, you know, I feel like we got to talk about some, hopefully.
Yeah, then you get to have it be tailored to what you need.
So since we were going to get a little feedback on time for the next one, and really maybe tweak it a little earlier or later. So we were looking at Thursday, December 14th for our December meeting. We were talking about whether 4 to 5 would be better, or 4:30 to 5:30. Personally, for you, Yvonne, what works better? You know,
4:30.
4:30. Okay.
I had to leave school early.
Okay.
Just to get here to be able to
oh wow.
log in.
Well, and that's what we've been doing. Would you eventually, I know in December, I don't want to make it later, and maybe Christy and Debbie don't, but would you be able to make it, say like we even did 5 or 5:30? Would that even be better, or no, you don't like going that late into the evening?
4:30 works. I mean, I can get home in time at 4:30.
Or I mean, if you did 4, does it work to just stay in your classroom and do the meeting there?
Well,
and then
it just depends. It's just gonna depend on now what day, because I just made an agreement with a parent yesterday. Her kid's so far behind that I'm gonna stay and tutor him after school for 3 days a week.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Until he catches up.
Wow.
Okay. I think we've been keeping these Wednesday or Thursday, but Thursday mostly.
I
Yeah.
can't do Wednesdays for sure, but I don't have to be here
No,
necessarily.
I mean, I
Thursday's
think
Thursday's
we
good.
need to keep it consistent. I was the one that has something that night, and so, but I will just start it and I'll have to leave early, so that's no problem. But yeah, so if you want to pop it on your calendar for the 14th, that's what we were gonna look at. And any input on what you, I mean, like Deb said, once the TPA starts, we know that will probably be our focus, but anything in particular you'd like if you're going to be joining us and, you know, putting in your energy to these meetings, what would you like to see?
God, I questions. Um, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this whole video. You know my resistance of videotaping.
I do.
Um,
What is that about? What's your resistance about?
um, I, I mean, I just don't like to be videotaped. I have a great energy in my classroom with my students, but looking at the video, I'm hypercritical.
Got it. I can relate to that.
Yeah, nobody likes to see themselves, right?
Yeah.
But
So
But
4 o'clock on
do
December
you
14th,
4:30 if you'd prefer the later time.
I can live with either. I just leave early. I get out at 3:33.
Oh,
And like today, I left right at 4:35, and I got home about 4 minutes after. I mean 3:35. I
okay.
got home about 4 minutes after five, but you know, that was touch and go because there was a traffic jam on 50.
Yeah, I think we should keep it at 4:30.
yeah,
And
one
I'm
of mine I
sure-
know gets done at 3:30.
Yeah.
She's at an elementary school, and then the other one is done at like 2:45, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm
will
putting it in.
specifically invite like a year two to um like I'm really going to encourage them differently next time because all of my interns are year twos, and I'm going to ask them to come as a little panel and ask, like be willing to share, ask questions to them, about anything.
Don't they need
at
informal
SCOE.
hours too? I mean,
They're getting them with me for other things.
Okay.
Uh and so, yeah, they're all working on year two TPA, which they're all trying to turn in by January, or before Christmas. And so
yeah,
a lot of their time is spent on that.
yeah.
These count toward my collaborative hours or something that school has me to do, like 1,700 hours or something.
So you're taking a class. I forget what it's called. But you're taking a class and I know the hours go towards that. Do you know what it's called, Debbie? It's like something 211 or I have
Oh,
it.
You mean
the
the
EDU?
coaching?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a class, and all of your formal and informal observation hours and meetings count for that. We record them. So you don't, we record them on our end that you meet all those hours. And then, you have a separate hours requirement, right? Like for special ed too, that's on top of that. There's
I
a
got a
bunch of
question
extra
about one
hours.
of the TPA things.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things it says like in TPE number 2, effective environment for student learning. Talks about
Mhm.
uh, demonstrate that I'm collaborative with other professionals.
Like this,
Number
or
MM2.7, understand and access in a collaborative manner with other agency professionals, a variety of interventions, related services, and additional supports, including site-based community resources and agencies. I mean, is that something I got to demonstrate in my classroom?
no, you can informally talk about that, right? Like with Vicky, it's like, hey, do you know who to go to if you need help in this particular area? Is it on your sped team at school? Is it at the district office? Or, who,
Oh,
like
okay.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Not everything can you like physically demonstrate, but it's having a conversation. Do you know where to go? Do you have a collaborative spirit, or do you refuse to ask for help? Like, not refuse, but is it hard to ask for help? Like just talking through, like, do you know who to go to? Who would
In
you
fact,
collaborate if this came up?
we have to go through something again. I'm sorry, I'm really tired and I don't exactly remember what it's called, but
Mm.
we need to go through something on our dashboard where we're kind of evaluating, for lack of a better word, our interns on the different TPEs. And so we've been encouraged to do that with, I mean, I want to do it with mine. So like, Yvonne, I'll want to meet you and talk about them because I don't feel like I have enough knowledge at this point. You're year one. I met you just a few months ago to really go through and say how you're doing on these various TPEs. So one of our informal hours that we need to schedule, that I want to schedule with you, is where we can Zoom and I can pull it up and we can talk about, okay, what are your strengths on the TPEs? What do you want to work on? And maybe just kind of set some goals. But you're certainly not expected to each one be able to document right now how you're doing towards it. I
Okay.
don't believe.
Nope. No,
Okay.
I usually ask, especially year one, like pick a couple of areas, like, engagement usually and management usually are good ones at the beginning. And let's talk through those and feel like, where do you see that you demonstrate some of these things? And where do you see that and everything else I leave alone, like, and, like not yet, haven't looked at it yet. It's perfectly, I just go like I go through it and I say, let's look at these. There's a lot on here. Even, somebody who's been teaching for a while hasn't hit all of these things in a few months of teaching, right? Like it just depends what we're working on. So I like to pick, have you guys pick where to start and what to focus on and where you think you are and why. Yeah.
So I'll be scheduling that with you in probably December. And then you're just going to get me the recording in the next week or two from one of your lessons. And we're going to start there. Yep.
We're going to sit around and have popcorn and watch it together because you would love that.
The recording that I'm going to be doing here this December is that part of the TPE, or is this just an informal?
It's part of our 8 observations that I have to do one a month for 8 months. So that'll be our December
Formal observation. Yeah.
Formal observation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I won't come in and observe you because instead you'll be sending me the recording, but it will still count.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Yep.
You look really excited about that.
We've been working on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in your camp. I don't like recordings either.
I mean, it's
gosh.
my job. Christy and I are on computers all day teaching.
I'm
so.
on computer, but that's not the same thing as watching a video of myself
Right,
afterwards.
right. Yeah, true.
Well, the lesson that we did, the lesson plan that we just turned in, Vicky, I need to update. Is that the one I have to upload to the dashboard?
Yes, I thought you did. Did you not?
I uploaded one and I,
I'll
didn't
double
like
check.
it.
I can text you tomorrow and let you know specifically what still.
Okay.
Or you can pull up your dashboard and it will show whether your lesson plan's in there or not. It should. Oh, I can look right now.
Oh, you know why it didn't go? I just realized why it's not there. It's a Word document and I did not turn it into a PDF.
Okay.
So I can fix that immediately.
Oh yeah, you're right. 11/28 not submitted. Yep.
Yeah. And I was looking, I was like, what's going on? I didn't know. But I didn't turn it into a PDF. I
Okay,
always
and
forget
then
that.
I'm gonna go ahead and open up the December one, and I'll just, because I don't know when you're gonna, I don't know exactly when you're gonna send it to me, but I'll go ahead and put it in next week as the date. So the date may not end up matching. So say like I put it in the December next week. Let's see, December 5th. Tuesday, and you actually record your lesson on the 6th or 7th or whatever, the date may not match, but you'll just plug in your lesson for the date for our December observation. Yeah. Yep.
And
So
Vicky, you should be able to see that it's been submitted now.
oh, let me refresh. Wow, that was quick.
I think it'll send you an
Oh,
email.
yeah, it says submitted. Thank you so much. Awesome. And then next week I'll open up the one for December so you can do that one. That was quick. Don't you wish it was always just that easy?
I wish it was.
Easy button.
Oh,
Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We know how hard you guys all work, and
Mhm.
just to work and then get home and hop back on with us is a lot. So I really appreciate it that you're here, and I hope you found it helpful. And then we'll remind you of our next meeting in December.
okay, so before I go, I do have a couple more questions. I know
Yeah,
it's getting late. I'm sorry.
that's
Uh,
fine. Do you want us to stop recording, or are they?
oh, I don't mind if you record.
Oh, okay.
You know,
See, you
this
don't
is a
hate it that much.
this is a resource. I'm gonna take full advantage of this.
Good.
So, so the TPE, and the TPA. So expectations, the assessment.
Mhm.
I'm more concerned about actually both. When can I start learning about what I need to start preparing for the video for the assessment? I want to start preparing for that now, not just video the observations, but learning so I can start figuring out how I'm going to hit those benchmarks.
Okay. I think Debbie, did
You
you
can look
want
at the, do you have the TPA, the TPA
I'm
website should be
just
in your
gonna look
dashboard.
for it. Okay, yeah.
It should be in his
I'm looking at the
dashboard.
TP. I'm looking at the TPs right now. Like number one is engaging and
TPA,
supporting all students.
no,
Yeah, I
Oh,
have
TPA
it.
TPA.
website.
I'll put this
There's
in
Oh,
the link. Let me share. So this is SCOE's website for the TPAs. And is this what you were saying, Deb?
Yep, it gives you
Okay.
examples. It gives you, so there are exact, it goes through all the slide decks that we created last year, introducing cycle 1, cycle 2, and then for every office hours are on here too. I can also, just to keep it simple, Yvonne, because I shared it with somebody last night. He also is in your cohort, but he came to our office hours for cycle 2 last night, and he wanted any information he could glean for cycle 1 because he's ready to start too. And so I shared, there's an overview slide deck, but just so you don't have to look for it, I'll find it and send the link to your email. And it just overviews like all the components, you know. And then we have additional slide decks on here that break down, like we do one that talks all about the focus students. We do one that talks about, you know, higher order thinking and how to capture that. We do one that talks about, you know, the clippings and the annotations. And so, and then we will be doing classes on that too, but I'll send you the overview one.
And
I'll grab it
Debbie,
right
I know
now.
you have to go, and so you
Thank
can
you.
always stop recording and I can stay
All
on.
right.
And Yvonne, I
Okay,
did put
perfect.
the link in the chat. Did you grab that link there?
no, I haven't grabbed the